Hey everyone, it's Nathan with Crown & Caliber, and today we are going to be doing another 3-watch collection. But before I get into the details of that, I want to introduce one of my coworkers here. This is Alex Hudman. He is the VP of Product. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I'm sure he could tell you more of what that is, but I'm super excited you're here, man. I'm super excited to do a 3-watch collection with you. So before we jump in and give the viewers what they want, the watches, why don't you introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about what you do and who you are?
Sure. Alex Hudman, been at Crown & Caliber for about 2.5 years. VP of Product, as Nate mentioned. Really what product does is the voice of the customer, right? So we take what we think the customer wants, we kind of create business solutions to solve those problems and launch it online. So as you're buying a watch or as you're selling a watch, kind of that whole experience is what I really am in charge of. So.
Awesome. Well, I am so glad that you do that, and I'll just continue doing what I do. So we have done a 3-watch collection before, and what that basically is a little game that we like to play in which it is the last 3 watches that you are going to own. And we usually have some parameters, and the parameters today are the last 3 watches that you can own, and they cannot be from top brands. Now what we mean by that is the top brands that we sell at Crown & Caliber. And so the ones we have picked aren't necessarily unknown brands, but maybe slightly more boutique or lesser known. And it is worth mentioning as well, for the fun of this game, we had to make sure that we had the watches on hand. So there are also plenty of other options that could be in place of this, but these are watches that I like, these are watches that you like. We're gonna reveal the watches and then kind of walk through each of them and hopefully learn a little bit more about Alex Hudman here and maybe even learn a little bit more about me. You ready?
Yep, let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Well, I'm looking at my watches. I can see the backs of your watches.
I see some yellow gold there.
You know I was gonna throw in something kind of flashy. Well, why don't you pick one of them up,
Okay.
intro it, and then I wanna play with it when you talk about it. I just wanna get to see it. So you pick the one you wanna start with and then hand it on over.
Yeah, so I mean, I took kind of your stereotypical approach, right?
Yeah.
Couple of everyday,
Come on, Ahud.
couple of every.
You're an individual.
Couple of everyday wears and then, a dress watch. So let's see, I'm gonna start with this one. This is a Bremont. This is their new broadsword from their military collection.
Let me see.
So my wife and I actually went to the UK on our honeymoon. We're kind of like certified Anglophiles. They are from London, right? So I was lucky enough to meet Giles, one of the founders of the company. They've got a great story, and I went with the pilot's watch from Bremont. They've got a big history in aviation. Their father was a pilot. It says London on the dial. That does harken back to my honeymoon. Before I started doing the product thing, right?
Yeah.
Like I spent a year in college as a aeronautical engineer major, but that was a year. Very quickly I decided that probably wasn't long term for me. But as you'd expect with a pilot's watch, like very readable. Bremont kind of gets knocked sometimes for having really big watches,
Yeah.
but I think this is a great size. I tend to go more for bands or straps as opposed to stainless steel bracelets or anything like that. This just kind of like, this is something I throw on every day to wear. Not real flashy, but solid. I always think they do neat stuff on their case backs too. And like some of the military inspired watches go a little bit over the top, right? Like they've got pictures of planes or helicopters or whatever on the dial or mission patches, with the Omegas. But this is very subtle kind of nod to Her Majesty's Air Force.
Yeah.
So that was my first choice.
I really like that. And I like on the casement how it has those lines that kind of are reminiscent of the classic Bremont style case that they're known for. But I actually haven't seen that watch in person, and that is a really good pick. It's subtle, it's understated, but it still is very much a Bremont, which is a cool
and I
watch.
think this is the first one we've maybe had.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's in new arrivals, actually. I just kind of stumbled across it the other day.
Well, hey, I will go ahead and pick my first watch up and then let you see it. So, funny enough, I guess when you start looking at some of the lesser known brands that we carry, there's probably going to be some overlap. So, my first one is a Bremont as well. And I went with the Bremont Terra Nova. Now, I'll let you look at this watch.
Yeah.
This is maybe a little bit more classic Bremont upon first appearance. It is basically the S500 case, so that traditional Bremont case with the offset crown at 2 o'clock. Interesting shape. Now where this Terra Nova is different is the case is titanium. So what you maybe lose with a larger case from weight is made up in the fact that that 43 millimeter case wears like it's almost nothing. And then being on that Bremont rubber strap definitely helps kind of with the lightness of it. And I also like it because it's a GMT complication, which I just love GMT complications. And it's this cool yellow GMT hand. On the dial, there's this embossed globe, which is just kind of a cool touch. And then the bezel, since it's not technically a dive watch, is actually a compass. And you do still have the 24-hour minute track inside the chapter ring. So it basically, at first glance, looks like your traditional Bremont Supermarine, but it's a GMT complication. And the Terra Nova, I just love little companies can do crazy things like this. The Terra Nova references a 1912 mission to Antarctica where this group from Britain tried to make it to the South Pole, and ultimately they ended up arriving to their destination and they were beat by, I think, a Dutch exploration group. And upon trying to return, all of them died. not a great story. But 100 years later, in 2014, this watch is released, and a young explorer went to go and recreate the mission. He survived and was wearing that watch. And I think it's just cool to see, like, I don't know, it's kind of like you want this rugged watch and like this history that it's like, it's an explorer's watch. And, you know, it's definitely a luxury timepiece in every sense of the word, but it's almost like, well, I can still wear it and beat it up a little. It's titanium, it's a rubber strap, it's got a compass bezel on it for directional navigation. Like, I don't know, it just kind of feels like that, you know, for me, that everyday watch that's like just robust and like the explorer's watch.
Yeah,
so that's why
I do
it.
like the way they embrace kind of like that British explorer mentality, right? And they do, you know, like you said, a small watch company do some crazy things. I mean, they've put pieces of the Wright Flyer, like they found a panel of fabric from the Wright Flyer that the family gave them, and they put that in a watch. And I got to see one of those when Giles was here in Atlanta. He actually had one of those Wright Flyer watches with him.
I think they have one with a hunk of wood from a boat or something.
Like a British destroyer.
Yeah, I mean, both those watches I think speaks to Bremont's quality. Like, I don't know about yours, but I know that one is also COSC certified, which is pretty awesome. And it doesn't even say it on the dial that they COSC certify. I wonder if it says it on the back chronometer. So I think it's a cool watch, and it's something that, you know, it's not your run-of-the-mill Supermarine. It's a little different, and it seems practical in its own right. So there you go. We each have one watch out. We both picked Bremont, so I'm excited to see. I can see the back of the next two, so I'm not totally sure what they are, but what do you have next?
I think I'm going to go with this one next. This is a Glashütte. So a couple of things about this one that I really like. And so when I first saw this watch, it reminded me of my grandfather's watch. So my grandfather, when he passed away, he had a Bulova Accutron from like 1968.
Those are so cool.
Like,
you actually brought that with you.
I brought that with me today. And I think it's like the silver dial and the gold hands, and the hands are very similar.
Yeah.
And maybe the dome on it as well. You know, it's the.
You want to compare them?
Yeah, let me grab that.
It's the 1960s.
Oh, wow.
The other thing I really liked about it is the numbers on that, the 12 and the 6, are very stylized.
Yeah.
Which actually, ironically, remind me of the grandfather clock that we have in my house.
Oh, there you go.
There's lots of grandfather things going on there.
I mean, I think this is a crazy cool watch, and comparing it to your grandfather's Accutron, which is so awesome.
No,
I wish it was still humming, which that would be impressive if it still was. I mean, when you look at them, yeah, man, I think there's definitely the bezel shape and that domed crystal, pretty undeniably similar design, clearly a difference in size, but even the hands, you're right. Like, that's a really good example of here you go to compare the two, kind of a callback to that watch. So where does that fit in your collection? You've got your kind of your everyday watch in the Bremont.
Yeah, I mean, I would consider this my dress watch, right?
Okay.
I mean, it's a little thick, but I think it'll still slide under a shirt sleeve. And I just love what Glashütte does with their movements. Like on the back, just the rotating counterweight has the gold kind of touches on it. And I could just sit here with a loop and like stare at the back at the movement for hours. So it's kind of like a piece of art on both sides, right? Like you can flip it over and enjoy that part of it, and you can look at the same time it's pretty functional. I don't know that I would go with the chronograph if we had one without one.
Yeah.
I think that really would harken back to my grandfather's watch. But, you know, we said we're going to play with watches we have in stock.
That's valid, yes.
So then I just kind of noticed, like, 2 of my watches are not Swiss.
Oh, yeah.
A little clue to the third, but...
I know where we're headed then. It's interesting, yeah.
You know, I like a little bit of style,
yeah.
too. So the numbers may kind of, you know, put some people off, but I think it definitely fits into that, like, 1960s vibe. And it's a little bit of extra zhuzh, you know, on the face there.
I do like that. And as I'm getting ready to show you my second watch, which my second one I'm going to go with is a dress watch too. So we probably had similar thoughts as far as our collections and having kind of an everyday address and maybe that extra piece that kind of fits in. So it's almost as if we had talked about this. So my second watch is an Alanga Insone. So a German manufacturer. So we're kind of kicking in the same territory here. And I went with their 1815 up down. Now, this is the up down refers to the power reserve on it. This is in rose gold. I'll let you see that.
Yep.
And I went with one of the older models because the current one is, I think, like 38 or 39 millimeters. And if you've been around here at all, you know that I love smaller watches. Mm-hmm. So that Bremont was definitely a step in a new direction for me. But this is classically a 36 millimeter dress watch.
Yep.
It's in rose gold, and it has all of those kind of adornments of that classic Alanga. So 1815 references the birth year of the founder of Alanga, and it's got all these like pocket watch adornments. So those cool Arabic numbers, the railway minute track, the little club indicators at the 15 marks on the dial, like all those little touches are like classic kind of pocket watch styling. And I just think, when I think of a dress watch, like that's what I think of. And I love the offset subdial seconds hand that's mirrored then by this power reserve indicator. Like it's just such a cool watch. And similar to your Glashütte, when you turn it over, you get this absurdly cool German movement with that German silver 3/4 main plate, the screwed gold chantons, the hand engraved swan neck regulator, like just a cool movement. And I can nerd out about Alangas all day. And since this is a hypothetical collection, it doesn't matter what it costs.
Right, that was my next question.
Yeah.
We didn't really put a limit on it.
No, we didn't. We were just going to have fun. I just think that is like, when I think of like the quintessential dress watch, I think of something like that. And so.
Yeah, I love the way they executed the power reserve, because that's not always an easy thing to pull off.
No.
Right? Like Glashütte with their pano reserve. I think we've talked about that one. We didn't really love the way they executed it. But yeah, this just, you wouldn't even know it was a power reserve if you were just to pick it up and look at it real quick. Like
often people mistake those as chronographs. Now granted they don't have pushers on the case side, but the dial layout is similar to a chronograph, like a 2-register chronograph. I just love, let me see it again. And I love the smaller, I love the smaller size. I think the 36 to me is just perfect. Like if you saw someone wearing that watch, you'd be like, yeah.
Well, we have the same size wrist, by the way. We always talk about that.
Oh, we do, yeah. Okay, so before we get into our third, I want to make a quick deviation. What are you wearing today?
Oh, sure. This is my first Omega in Space Speedmaster. Again, a little bit outside of the normal Speedmaster with not the stick hands, but the
are they sword?
Alpha hands?
I think, actually you're right, they're alpha hands. And then the leaf hand is in the...
It's in the seconds.
The seconds.
Yeah, the rank seconds.
Oh, I love that watch.
The chronograph has the same kind of stick
as
you would see on a normal Speedmaster. So, yeah, I thought long and hard about what to wear today, just in case. But this, is a little a little outside of the normal Speedmaster, but you still get the domed crystal and it's a lot. And again, kind of lean more towards the strap than the stainless steel.
And I was going to say it works well on smaller wrists because it is a smaller Speedy.
Yeah.
We're like watch twins. We really are. All right. What do you have?
What are you wearing today? I guess I should ask you.
That is kind of you to ask. I'm just wearing old trusty, the old Datejust on the bracelet.
I thought about wearing my, so I've got a vintage Datejust from my birth year.
Yeah.
Well, we won't tell how many.
A little different than my Datejust.
Isn't from the 70s, but yeah, I thought about wearing that. So it's a Sigma dial with the two-tone.
That is a solid Datejust, and I think that's what's so cool about things like Datejust. And I've talked about them before on the channel, where it's like the little intricacies, and we won't get into it here, but something like a Sigma dial Berthier, like that carries a connection
Absolutely.
that it's not everyday chest. And yeah, this may look like thousands of other watches, and yours may look like thousands of other watches, but it's yours, and there's a reason, and there's plenty of reasons why I love this one, and plenty of reasons why you love yours. And I think that's what's cool about watches. It can be a run-of-the-mill Datejust, but there's reasons that you enjoy it, you know?
Yeah, and like that uniqueness is kind of what I look for when I think about adding something to my collection.
Yeah, I like that. All right, what is your last pick?
Okay, last pick.
It's a Swiss watch, I know that much.
It's a Swiss watch, we know that. It is smaller for a dive watch. It is on the small side. This is a Blancpain 50 Fathoms Bath Escape, I believe is how they pronounce that.
Wait, I want to see it.
Well, quick.
Okay.
A couple things. So, ceramic bezel, 120-hour power reserve, according to their website.
I didn't know they made it smaller. What is this? Is this a 38 or is that
38 or 39, I think.
Interesting?
One of the things on this dive watch, one of the things I really like is how they did the date window, right? Like it's not, one of the things that always irks me about dive watches is when they put the date window at like 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because it kind of blocks off a little bit of the lume, right? This one they put between the 4 and the 5.
Yep.
So I like how they executed that. Again, ceramic bezel, and I know from watching one of your videos, Blancpain was making dive watches in the 50s. Right, so there's a great heritage kind of to them making dive watches. Some may argue it was the first.
It was the first with the unidirectional bezel.
Yeah, for sure. Nice. When I saw the band material, when I first saw it on the site, I was like, is that a canvas? Like, what is going on? That's like a
sailcloth
canvas.
Yeah,
sailcloth.
Yeah, and it's got that kind of rubberized back.
Which I was down I did live down in Florida for 16 years and did a little bit of sailing. So again, kind of making that personal connection, right?
The finishing on these lugs, it has like these interesting tapers and then these interesting chamfers, and I think this is kind of what, when you jump up to, because a Blancpain is not a cheap watch, is the level of finishing on this is definitely kind of a step above, and just these cool angles and these sharp, crisp lines. And you can realize that, this watch isn't just your run-of-the-mill. Like, that is a sweet timepiece. Yeah. So, I mean, like, you can see, like, your style isn't just limited to these 3 watches. Like, you can see your style in these, whether it's your Sinn or your grandfather's Accutron or, referencing your Speedmaster and Loving straps. Like, you're finding things that transcend just this, albeit fun, but unfortunately hypothetical watch collection that will return to the safe when this is over. That's a good pick.
And it's not, for a Blancpain, it's not, like, outrageously priced. I mean, this is kind of attainable, right? For this brand, for sure.
Yeah, nice, man.
Yep.
All right, so here's my last, which it's funny how mine is a Swiss watch this time around. It's a Girard-Perregaux Loretto.
I almost picked that exact watch.
So this one is an interesting one for me. So this is they make this in a 42, and this one comes in actually closer to 41, and they also make it in a 38. And if I had my druthers, I would have loved to have seen the 38. This is a watch I would have never picked. We recently did a video where I blindly picked watches again, and this happened to be one of the watches. And after getting to hold it in person, I began to appreciate it. And I think, I'll let you hold it now. I think hearing about this release and bringing back the Loretto, the Girard-Perregaux did. So this was originally, came out in like 1970s. I think actually between the Royal Oak and the Nautilus. It was originally a quartz watch when they first released it. And so Girard-Perregaux is kind of reinvigorating the Loretto watch. They bring it back. Here it is. And I've always kind of just been like, just kind of feels like a Royal Oak wannabe. And then I think being able to see the watch in person, which I think is so important, because even with you and the Bath Escape, I would have never thought about it, but seeing it, I can appreciate it. And most importantly with this Loretto, getting to experience it in person, I began to be like, wow, it is wholly its own watch. Like, yes, it has an octagonal shape to its bezel, but other than that, I mean, its lines are much less aggressive.
Pretty thin.
It's very thin. Its dial has its own texture to it. It's not a tapisserie dial from a Royal Oak. It is its own watch. And I was thinking about it. It kind of, if a Royal Oak is a Lamborghini, this is definitely more of a Porsche, where it's kind of like more reserved styling. But it's just a very well executed watch. It wears much better than I would have thought a 42 millimeter wears, which is kind of pushing it for me. But I think it's all those things. This kind of downturn integrated case, thinner case. It just wears really well. All right, I'm done.
No, that's okay, because everything you said about this watch, I love. And the one thing I probably didn't get that I should have was a blue dial. I love a blue dial, right? Like I think back to my first luxury watch was an Omega Seamaster blue dial, the James Bond Omega. And you know, I sold that, and I've kind of regretted selling it ever since. So yeah, everything you're saying about it, I agree. Yeah, nice choice.
Thank you. Also on this one, another thing, this watch is great, is that bracelet is pretty exceptional.
Yeah.
Which sometimes I kind of, from lesser known brands, I feel like sometimes the bracelet can feel like an afterthought.
Yeah.
And that bracelet is awesome. And I think the finishing on it is great. You know, it is different enough from the Royal Oak bracelet. It's very much its own design. It's kind of its take on an Oyster or somewhere in between a Nautilus design. Like, that watch is very thoughtful. And granted, it's a very expensive watch. So maybe not as much as a Royal Oak, but it's not trying to be a Royal Oak. I don't think anyone would be like, oh, you're wearing a Royal Oak, or you wish you had a Royal Oak. It's clearly its own watch.
It's got nice heft to it, right? It
does.
balances well with the clasp underneath there too, because you know sometimes they feel a little
just
unbalanced, and shaky. But yeah, especially with small wrists, I worry about that with the watch being too heavy. But this balances nicely.
And here you go, hot take. I would take that over a 5711. Here's why.
Look into the camera when you say
that. The 5711, like, the Nautilus is an impressive watch. No doubt about it. But I think when I compare it to this is a watch I would feel comfortable wearing every day. A 5711, especially in the resale market, is absurd. And I only bring this up because it is another integrated case, you know, from the 70s. This kind of quasi-luxury dive watch, you know, thing going on here. So I wanted to bring it up. But I truly and genuinely think that is an exceptional design that stands on its own. And since I can't sell the watch, might as well take the one you want, right?
So, okay, on the spot a little bit. So if I were to pick one from your collection, I would say this one.
Okay. And
so
then
if you, of my three, and you can't have my grandfather's watch. But other than that, which is your favorite of my three?
I like this twist.
Yeah, I think I would take the Blancpain.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that surprised me a lot. I like the Glashütte, but it just seems a little large for me.
Yep.
And when I think of a dress watch, I really want slim, small. I was even looking at 34 millimeter options. Like I love just a very small. I think in my head it makes me think of like my grandfather or, you know, like Mad Men or something.
Yeah,
so
right.
I think for me, that the Bathyscaphe, that surprised me because I've seen them before, but I don't think I've seen that size, and that one is definitely something that appeals to me. Good on you. Good question.
Yeah.
Well, hey guys, thank you so much. We love getting to do this. We love getting to introduce you to other people in the office, like Alex, and just hopefully learning something about your style, what you like, and a little bit about who we are here at Crown and Caliber. Guys, if you have any questions about these watches or any comments about the watches we talked about, or you think that I'm crazy for turning down a 5711, let us know in the comments below. Hey, Alex, thank you so much. And as always, guys, thank you for watching.